Hey, greetings, OCO. Get in here, look here. And welcome to my presentation today. And what I want to talk to you about today is this book that I wrote almost over a year ago. It was from a series that I created from the Inner Peace Reset series that I started. At that time, what I wanted to do was to help people overcome anxiety and depression. And what I did was I wrote a book about my journey in the inner voice that really and truly saved me uh, from getting depressed. Okay, and the title of the book is The Inner Voice That Saved Me, a spiritual reset for the lonely, anxious, and emotionally exalted. Because one thing that I have noticed in what is going on today and recently is that a lot of people are getting emotional. Okay, they are reacting out of emotions, and they're not taking time to pause and think about things that they should. So what had happened was my husband said that we should have our own holidays. I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's very interesting. Yeah, we should have our own holidays. And see what I did was I said, well, let me see. I know that the original years had 13 months, okay, and 28 days. So I started working on this uh, calendar, okay. And then when I was working on this calendar, it took me to this wheel, all right, and the wheel of the Indians. And when it took me to this wheel, I said, you know what? I'm going to use this wheel, but I want to put our spin on it. So we know that the year is divided into four seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. Then, we have four directions: north, east, south, and west. And then I know that the being or an adult has four stages, child, youth, and then adult, and then you become an elder. So I kind of like begin to develop this will. And I know we operate on four levels, which are the mind, the emotions, body, and the spirit. So as I began to develop the series, okay, I created a workbook that goes along with this book, okay? So as I created the series and created the book, I began to, as a part of the calendar, to break this down, okay, into days. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole that we will get into later. And I also touched on that, I think, on my YouTube page. So if you want to go back, you can find some information on my YouTube page on the calendar. So as I began to develop this, uh, I began to listen to that inner voice. Remember that inner voice. There is a voice that each and every one of us have, but sometimes we are not able to hear it or listen to it or focus on it because it's a whisper. Okay, it's not loud because everything we see out in reality, those things are loud and they become a distraction. Okay, and it disconnects us from our true selves and our inner voice. But I have always tried to stay connected. And so as I did the wheel, this led me to the tree of virtue. Okay. And in this tree of virtue that I began to work on, what I knew was the foundation and build the foundation was love and wisdom. Okay. And when I say love, I mean unconditional love. Okay. This is right here is just a little draft of what I was doing and what I was working on. I haven't finalized it yet, but here we have in the ground, which I will call the living ground, the great center. This is the source of all possibilities because whatever comes out of the ground, there are what's below the ground. There are what millions and millions of possibilities. Okay, and then you have your root. If you're rooted in love, unconditional love, okay, that means love with no conditions whatsoever, okay? Even if you don't get along with someone, you can still love them, but you can love them at a distance, okay? Now, there's also wisdom. Wisdom is very important, and some people say, uh, money is more important, but I say, I'm like this. If you, one, have money. It takes wisdom to what? Have money and know how the money works and how to keep money, right? Now, if you lose money, you have to have what? The wisdom on how to get the money back. All right. So wisdom is really and truly important. Okay. And the tree is divided into a root system. You root in love, you root in wisdom, then we have the trunk, which is your identity. Who do you think you are? Okay. You can have an identity in truth and honesty. The branches are your behaviors and your expressions because who you are dictates your what? Behavior. You want to operate in integrity and trustworthiness. And the fruit of all of this comes trust and honor. Because remember back in the day when you were growing up, I know when I was growing up, one of the things that they said is your word is your bond. That means whatever you said you were going to do, you did it. Somehow today, I don't know how it happened, but I mean, people say stuff. They say things to please other people, or they say things, but they have no intention of going through. And that could lead to a little mistrust. All right. Now remember your roots, whatever you're rooted in, is the foundation, okay, of who you are. Now, as I developed this tree, the little voice within me said, okay, well, why is it today a lot of people don't operate in honor or integrity or are trustworthy? Why is it does that not happen today? Are they so rare? Okay. Oh, I forgot. In the fruit also is your life experience, which would be trust and honor. All right. Now, so then I developed this survival tree. Okay. The voice told me about the survival tree. And what is this? Okay, remember your roots shape the identity drives the behavior, and the behavior produces your what? Your fruit, your life experiences. All right. So the tree of survival is in the ground, okay, of all possibilities, remember? But the roots of this tree is rooted in pain, trauma, conditioning, and inherent patterns, okay? And when we are young, sometimes we may experience some type of trauma that can affect us into adulthood, or maybe some type of pain that can affect us even to this day. All right. And one of the things that I have noticed in a lot of communities is the inherent patterns. Okay. Because our great grandparents, they suffered a lot. They had to try to survive. And even when they tried to survive, that may not have been enough. They grew up with a bunch of lack. So when our grandparents grew up with lack, that affected the children. Okay. And the children, maybe they did a little more, but they still didn't feel as though maybe they were worthy of an abundance because they never experienced an abundance in their childhood. And that also goes on to children um, of today. They might not be able to uh, do the things that they want to do because of what their parents have told them or taught them. See, if you come up with a negative, unhappy upbringing, then you will what? Give that to your child. Not because it's your fault, because maybe you have never experienced that unconditional love. Okay, you may not have been able to be introduced into someone who could teach you what love and unconditional love really and truly is. So you begin to perpetuate over and over again this pain, this negativity, this unhappiness, this I am not worthy of abundance, and things of that nature. Okay? And this tree right here is a whole explanation in itself. Okay. The fruit of the tree is distorted love, love where you're trying to control others, toxic relationships. You might be a people pleaser, disconnected from source, your true self. Okay. That's one of the things. Okay. We'll talk about connection uh, in the book. Okay, it's just a little short paragraph where I talk about disconnection. Okay, then we go on to after that. I put these two together. I created a wheel. Okay, and the tree. I created a wheel for the survival tree as well as the tree of virtue. Okay, because this is what I the voice would tell me uh, and help me to go through. So, because all you have to do really when you want to interact with that inner voice is to ask questions. Ask questions and wait for the answers. The answers will come. So I just started asking questions and how can we bring this together? So this is how it happens. There is a trigger that happens. Something happens, okay? And then an emotion. Emotion is a reaction, automatic. It could be fear, it could be hurt, it could be a rejection. All right. And then that that emotion has to be given a meaning. Your mind gives that emotion a meaning. Okay. It might be, okay, that person doesn't care about me. And then that becomes a belief. And your belief is when your conclusion that solidifies from the repeated feeling. So if you always feel as though someone or people don't care about you, okay, that becomes a belief. And then you begin to believe that I can't trust anyone. I'm not enough. Then that turns into, now this right here, this should be identity, but uh, they didn't copy it right. All right. And so this identity tells you, who do you think you are? You might say, I am the one who has to fight all the time. I'm the one that is not enough. The one that I can't rely on anyone. All right. And then we have this one right here. This should be behavior. And when it comes to behavior, it's like I react. How do you react? Okay. Sometimes when you get triggered, you go straight to reaction. Okay? You go straight to the behavior. You begin to just react, okay, out of anger, defensiveness, controlling, closing yourself off, or seeking validation, okay? And then number 7 is perception. The perception is the lens through which you view your reality. How do you see things? Okay, sometimes people see things in a very negative way. Right? Anything that happens to them, they're going to see it as a hurt. They're going to view it through hurtful, angry eyes. All right. And so, with that being said, that leads to what? Your experiences. This is always happens to me, right? People always leave me. Why bother? Okay. The survival tree sees the threat. You're always seeing a threat right here in the survival tree. Okay. Because it's rooted in trauma, fear, and pain. And if you do not stop this wheel or put a brake in the wheel, it will continue. The universe is going to keep on bringing you things that triggers you because that's a part of your belief. That's a part of your identity. Okay. All right. Now, we want to learn how to what? Break the survival tree and the survival wheel, the unconscious. Okay. So what do? If something triggers you, then you need to be aware of it. You got to say, oh, hold up. I feel anger. Okay. I feel this, this emotion is bringing me what? Anger. This hurt me. Why did it hurt me? Pause. Doing this pause, you breathing, okay? And you don't act immediately. You create space and you center yourself. And then you begin to acknowledge and you allow yourself to feel the pain and you sit with the emotion. You let yourself be human and you don't suppress the emotion. Then you choose. You choose who you will be. Okay, how will you react? Or how will you respond? Okay, because you want to what break the cycle, but you want to choose the right path, and then you go into alignment. Uh, you ask for truth, not pain. You speak from the heart. You set healthy boundaries and you respond with presence. Does this, what I choose, how I choose to respond, does it coincide with truth, with my true self? Okay. Then we go to creation. This should be creation right here. Okay. I become someone new because once you begin to break the cycle, you are becoming someone new because you are responding in a different way because you create a change. You are building healthier patterns because you are creating a change and you're beginning to grow and evolve. Now, this is what I like to call reflection or perception, where you see what you have created. You see the lesson in that trigger. Okay. You begin to grow from that trigger and you see all the different possibilities that could happen. Okay. And then you integrate or you go through integration. So then you carry it forward. You begin, that becomes a part of your growth. Okay. You embody it truly, you practice it daily, and you live the lesson. Okay. This is when you begin to live your life on the conscious will. And all of this is rooted in what? Love and wisdom. You become whole. You are not distracted by those things that is within you. You are working on your inner self. That is what this is here. So, like I said, I wrote this book, and my inner voice is what really and truly helped me to develop this system. And what I want to talk now about is why you feel disconnected. Because a lot of us, we feel disconnected. When I talk to a lot of people, they seem to feel disconnected from their power. You know, the power is within us, is within you, not outside of you. Because what is within you, okay, is the power. And what's on the outside of you is a reflection of what is within you. So we want to get connected back to y'all, the source of all possibilities, to God. Okay. So why do we feel disconnected? The world teaches you to disconnect before you ever know what connection truly is. And that is really and truly true. They get the children. Okay. If you can get the children and get the children disconnected from that source, from that voice, okay, then you can lead the children anywhere. Okay. So what they do is they try to disconnect the children from the source. This, however, is not your fault. Okay. We have been conditioned from birth to disconnect from our true self. For a from a young age, we are taught how to perform, how to behave, and how to shrink ourselves to fit into the expectation of others. Many children have suffered trauma that causes the disconnection from their authentic self. But rarely, if ever, are we taught how to feel. We are not taught how to name our emotions or how to listen to ourselves. If you are anything like me, you learned early on what it felt like to be both seen and forgotten at the same time. And I'll go over the journey through this book of how uh, what I went through as a child in my relationship with that inner voice. And these are some of the things that I talked about. Okay. I talked about the mind, how the mind works, right? And how we all can really and truly get back to and reconnect to that voice that is within us. Okay, so with that being said, gratitude for watching. I hope you take interest in the system. I hope you take interest in the book that I created. Also coming soon is another book, Breaking the Patterns. I hope to have that coming out really soon. So, that being said, subscribe to the channel so that you can continue this journey with me. Click like, comment, please, and also share. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And I really and truly hope that this helps you along the way. OCO.